Today we're going to be reacting to a video by NikkiVegan in which she gives us 3 vegan dinner ideas. The interesting bit is, in her title, she says these meals will actually keep vegans full, which makes me wonder if vegans have trouble being full, or if being full is even the goal of eating a meal.
If you're asking yourself, what should I make for dinner? You want something good to eat, you want something a little bit different for dinner, I've got you covered with 3 high protein meals that are quick and easy dinner recipes that anyone can make, and you can have them on the table in under 30 minutes. All the recipes are going to be written out in the description box below, so let's go ahead and get started.
I don't know about you, but my stomach hurts just looking at it. Maybe you're the kind of human whose stomach can't be bothered to tell you that you're not supposed to be eating this vegetable matter, but I would venture to say that for most of us, this is going to lead to gastric upset. I'm just trying to eat dinner. Even back when I used to eat pasta, I always knew a blood sugar crash was going to follow no matter what I did. Does vegan pasta have the same impact? It would totally be a shame if it did, because again, I'm just trying to eat dinner, not fatigue myself unnecessarily. Also, now, in the context of veganism, I see a lot of environmental destruction here. I guess this green material is useful if you don't have access to real food, but I have a feeling this woman has access to real food. So I wonder why she's choosing to destroy the environment just to have a flour product she actually doesn't need. I remember before I changed my eating habits eating big colorful bowls of food. Even when I made pasta, I always used some type of frozen vegetable mix. I would rarely make pasta with meat. I almost never used cheese because it was too expensive. Assuming the pasta is made with egg, even a pitiful bowl of spaghetti with store-bought tomato sauce and frozen vegetables would have more appropriate human nutrition than what I'm looking at on the screen right now. Regardless, I still felt like garbage afterwards. Now, when I just eat a bowl full of ground beef, not only am I actually getting a more complete nutritional profile, I make the ground beef in batches and warm it up when I'm ready, so it saves a lot of time too. I'll admit it looks more pitiful than this bowl of food on the screen right now, but pretty doesn't satiate the open dynamic system that is a human being. It also helps to not be so tired afterwards, to not feel so full at all, to not feel anything in my digestive system at all. It means I can keep working if I need to, or rest if it's time to. I'm ready for anything.
If you love buttered noodles, especially like when I was a kid, we used to do pasta, the butter, and then the shaker of Parmesan, the green one, that was like the really finely grated Parmesan. Mix that all up. I don't even think I did salt and pepper. I just had that as is. This is very reminiscent of that flavor-wise, but I love the little extra sweetness and savoriness from the onions and the cabbage. It just gives it something extra, and I think black pepper is a must on this, but that's my personal preference.
It's interesting how, after some time of not eating veg, I stopped wanting it. I went so long being obsessed with vegetables because it used to be my favorite kind of quote-unquote food. I don't know about the experiences of other people, but when I think about the past meals I used to make, I no longer think about them fondly because they genuinely made me feel so terrible, even after the initial burst of pleasure due to the taste. It's always interesting to watch vegans and how they fondly remember the taste of animal products. I didn't used to like red meat, and it took me a long time to get over my aversion to animal fat. Now when I see it, I feel what I assume is exactly the same way a vegan does when they think back on the animal products they used to eat. I get hungry and excited.
So these protein bowls have three main components. The first is the quinoa, and I like to start with that because that's what takes the longest, so everything else will be ready by the time this is done. So we'll go ahead and let that cook, and in the meantime, I'll make the second component, which is some roasted chickpeas. Then we're gonna go ahead and season this with some smoky paprika, a little garlic, salt and pepper. That will cook for 15 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and sprinkle some nutritional yeast at the end. This adds a little bit more protein and also lots of flavor. And the last step is to steam some spinach, and I like to do this with a little bit of chili paste to add some extra flavor. This has garlic and some chilies and ginger. It's super good. And this is all going to get tied together with a delicious and very simple tahini sauce. But for now, we're gonna pour this all over our quinoa chickpea bowl.
So I live in Japan, and it's very common here to eat raw egg or undercooked egg. It's something I've been trying more and more over the past weeks, and I recently made a batch of soft-boiled eggs. I'm originally from the States, and you wouldn't catch me dead eating undercooked eggs there, but not me perking up thinking I'm looking at an over-easy egg. I'm actually starting to salivate. I've got one left in the fridge, and I'm going to enjoy it later. I mentioned before about how her bowl earlier was quite incomplete in terms of nutrition. I would venture to say that if that were a plate of over-easy eggs, it would have more nutrition than whatever else is on that plate. Just saying. Just after this is an ad. We're skipping that too.
I love leftovers, and I know not everybody does because the idea of eating the exact same thing again the next day is not always very appealing, but I'm going to show you how you can turn your leftover quinoa and your leftover tahini sauce into something completely new and different with just a couple of little easy tweaks.
I guess this is a place where vegans have an advantage. I can understand that for the average person, it would be incredibly boring to eat a bowl of ground beef with egg every day. One of the main problems is that we treat food as though it's entertainment. I'm not saying this is the end of the world because traditional celebrations are one of the reasons for living that I think is universal no matter where you go in the world. Many of them revolve around food and I'm all for it. On the other hand, we have to understand that we do not eat for entertainment, but we eat for the fulfillment of our nutritional requirements. And so the less of you think of each meal as a treat, the better. It doesn't mean you can't have fun with food. It doesn't mean you can't experiment with food. I don't do this myself, but I've seen a lot of carnivore and keto channels making all kinds of weird stuff. More so than thinking of it as some kind of restriction, it's best to understand that you're just recalibrating your ideas of what eating actually means. But more specifically in the context of veganism, we also want to consider consumerism and reducing waste. This is going to sound gross, but not only is what goes into my digestive system much less than before, what comes out is also way much less. I take that to mean that my body is truly absorbing what I've eaten and is legitimately only getting rid of what it cannot use. Just some poop for thought.
If you find yourself with leftovers like leftover quinoa and leftover tahini sauce, but it's not quite enough to make a meal, my go-to is just to turn it into a salad. It's such a good way to stretch leftovers and make a whole new meal.
I should have known some raw, toxic-ass garbage was going to make its way into this video somehow. I spoke too soon when I gave her credit for at least cooking the spinach. Kale is one of those foods that's like, what's not wrong with it? Kale to me, and this should be the case for everybody on planet Earth, by the way, it's like cigarettes. You can imagine some people saying some positive stuff about cigarettes. For example, it decreases your appetite and helps you calm down when you're stressed out. But when they're saying those things, they're completely missing the main point, and that is that nobody on planet Earth should ever be smoking cigarettes. I don't know what the health benefit of kale could possibly be that is worth the problems it causes. Again, maybe you're a person with a superhuman body and you're not impacted by it. Congratulations. You're the person who can live to 105 chain smoking every day. There's a seat for you in the corner. Please take it. Maybe you're the kind of person whose body just simply can't be bothered to alert you to the toxicity in this gunk, can't be bothered to warn you about how bad it is by the allergic reaction it basically causes in your digestive system. It's supposed to be a warning to stop and never eat whatever it was you ate again. The fact that we normalize this and we consider that calamity healthy blows my mind. A healthy digestive system is a quiet digestive system. Just like when your heart beats and you don't feel it. Just like when you blink and you don't feel it. Just like when you breathe and you don't feel it. Why the hell should you feel it? Because mainstream media told you it was okay? Okay. Almonds are super bad for the environment. They are so super bad for the environment. I can kind of understand if this lady isn't an environmental vegan, But if I can be perfectly honest, it's kind of strange to be a vegan who cares about animals yet doesn't care about the environment, because the environment is basically animals. There's no separating the two. We don't have environment, we don't have animals. We don't have animals, we don't have environment. It's very simple. I can see some vegan somewhere trying to shove a randomized control trial in my face, talking about some associative suggestion about the health benefits of nuts. I don't know who needs to hear this, but not only is that not evidence that they're good for you, they're really poisonous. In any case, if I try to tell you, hey, there may be some associative suggestion that says that almonds are actually not good for you, which would mean more to you? If I told you that you could get the health benefits you seek from almonds in some other kind of food that's not as bad for the body, would you stop eating almonds? I mean, almonds are tasty, but they're not that tasty.
For the dressing, I'm going to use the same tahini sauce that I made earlier, but I'm going to thin it out and make it into a more pourable dressing by adding a little bit of lemon juice. Whenever you make a homemade tahini sauce, it is going to thicken up in the fridge just because that tahini absorbs a lot of moisture. That's totally normal. So usually what I will do is add a little splash of water or a little bit more lemon juice to thin it out. And if I want to make it a dressing, I'll just add a bit more. So you can really play around and make it the consistency that you like. So I'm going to thin it out with some lemon juice and pour this all over our kale salad.
Fantastic presentation skills, I'll give her credit. Kale has never looked appetizing to me, but if it was lettuce or some other green, this kind of thing would have been right up my alley. But even in that case, it's like looking at a piece of devil's food cake. It's the kind of thing you know damn well you cannot get away with eating without regretting it later in a situation involving a toilet and smells you never thought a human body could produce. And so, just as I can never look at the devil's food cake again the same, I just look at it and I see pain and diabetes, this is one of the most repulsive things I've ever seen. I put out a video on how humans tend to normalize pain. We are daredevils at heart. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. You know the bit. But I want you to think of how many self-care days you wind up requiring on the count of indulging in something like sweets or eating food that's supposed to be healthy for you, but that in turn is doing a number on you slowly but surely the more you expose yourself to them. If from the beginning you focused on nutrition and you didn't focus on being full, for example, chances are your physical and mental health would be at a much higher level and could be sustained for much longer. We wind up in a vicious cycle of, I feel like crap, so I want to treat myself. I treat myself, but then I feel like crap. I guess another thing that can be said about us is that we're gluttons for punishment.
I love a salad that has all the flavors and all the textures at once. Like, more is more in a salad for me. I love the sweet and chewy apricots, the crunchy almonds, the creamy, spicy dressing. I think the sweetness of the apricots really plays with the spice, and then you get the savory and the salty, crunchy, creamy, like all the contrast. Such a satisfying salad and a very easy way to use up your leftovers. If you want some more dinner recipes, I'll put them up on the screen, as well as some high protein breakfast recipes that you might like. And I'll link my cookbook in the description box below so you can check that out. It's called Vegan Party Planning, and there's lots of good dinner recipes in there as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in a video very soon.
I guess I'll end on this note. One of the benefits of eating protein and fat is that they are a nice combination of the nutrients that power you without draining you. If you introduce carbohydrates into the mix, almost anything goes. But the former two on their own, in the appropriate proportions for the individual, should have that individual running like a well-oiled machine. You don't really have to worry about feeling full, because not only is that not the point of eating, but fat keeps you satiated and you unlearn reliance on the need to fill a quote-unquote empty stomach. You also don't need to worry about whether your meal is high protein or not, because the best source of bioavailable protein goes hand in hand with animal fat. There's much less cooking involved, much less packaging involved, much less waste involved, and depending on how you source your meat, much less of an environmental impact is required to fill your nutrition requirements. There's like 50 wins here, but it's hard to get people to see it. I'd rather eat the meat of a cow, knowing that the cow died for me to get that meat, than a bowl full of kale salad that even one animal died for me to have on the dinner table. Which would you rather eat? These are things I would think about as a vegan that wouldn't let me sleep at night. Anywho, thank you for watching, and as always, be having a good day.